Welcome back to the podcast. My name is Joseph Clough, and this is episode 924. Now, in today's episode, I thought it would be a good idea to go into the subject of anxiety and how we all can experience it from time to time, and sometimes we can experience it pretty much all the time. But like I said, in this episode, I want to kind of shine a light on anxiety and make you aware of many people experiencing it and many people who you wouldn't think experience it and the severe consequences of experiencing that anxiety. So hopefully it will allow you to feel seen, heard, and felt, knowing you're not alone. And then at the end of this episode, we'll talk about maybe some ways of how we can start to deal with it. So last week, there was an Instagram post, and for many people in America, which is largely my audience, about 40-50% is American, but in England, there was this news story where someone was unable to attend an event, ultimately. And there's what they said on Instagram. Morning, guys. I want to let you know I've decided not to be able to play in the Welsh Open next week. It's hard to explain, but for years I've suffered from stage fright at times, brought on by anxiety. It's not something that I can predict or control, but I try to manage as best as I can. I'm sorry to everyone who's brought tickets, but I can't get my cue, because it's, by the way, snooker in this case, which is very similar to pool, but bigger tables, smaller cue balls, and things like that. But I'm sorry to everyone who brought the tickets. I just can't get my cue out when I feel like this. And I think this is what's best for me right now. I still want to be around for the tournament, and I'll be doing some work with the TV station. And I hope to see you all there. So who is this person? Well, surprisingly enough, this person is pretty much a legend in snooker. They have been, I'm really certain, like the longest standing snooker player, the most successful, and that is Ronnie O'Sullivan. You see, he turned professional at 16 years old, 41 titles and a current number one. And think about how many years that is. 16, and he's in his 40s, late 40s, early 50s, being a champion and feeling this way. You see, you'll notice that no matter where you are, you can feel anxiety. In fact, the most successful people can feel anxiety because the pressure is that bit more. They have the highs and they have the lows. Sometimes they go to addictions because they're trying to manage the high and the low. They try to manage their state. And sometimes the pressure, the anxiety, sometimes the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of being found out, because they have that inner critic at times. I'm not saying specifically for him, but we can see the heightened spotlight and pressure can increase the anxiety. No matter how much wealth they have, no matter how much celebrity fame they have, it can actually just double and triple it. And the reason why I bring out this example and soon other examples is to make you realize that, number one, we are all in this together and we need to not be alone. It is great that someone like that, who we put up on a pedestal, is able to be open and honest with us, that we aren't the only ones who just suffer in silence. And I want you to know you don't have to suffer in silence. If you experience other issues, but things like anxiety, worries, and self-doubt, and the imposter syndrome, you're not alone. And it is a battle that we tend to fight alone because we don't want other people to know how we're feeling on the inside. We don't want to feel vulnerable because other people might take advantage, or we just feel maybe ashamed that is the case, that we're not strong enough, the fear of being found out. And that's why we can tend to people please and push and push and push and push and push until there's nothing else to do other than kind of fall down almost, or go inside to try to recover. And that's not just the only person. You see, I did a search online on celebrities with anxiety and there's many people who have been talking openly about this recently, like Emma Stone, Adele, Ryan Reynolds, Selena Gomez, Johnny Depp. There's so many people, Missy Elliot, Michael Phelps. These are athletes, these are artists, and many of them experience this. And that's why I want to shine a light onto it today and really kind of shine a light on their own inner experience and what we can learn from that will allow us to hopefully push through this. Now, the first one I'm going to bring up is something that I don't technically believe in. Okay, so I like to sometimes bring things out if I don't believe it. You may believe it, you may not believe it. It's okay to have opinions. But this is what Selena Gomez actually said about her anxiety. So she became the first person to hit 100 million followers on Instagram. And there's what she said. I've had lots of issues with depression, anxiety. I've been very vocal about it, but it's not something I feel I'll ever overcome. And I find that very sad in a loving way. In a way that I would never want anyone to feel like that's all they're going to be, or they're always going to have to struggle. Because I know that I've overcome it. I've worked with hundreds, thousands of people over the last 22 years to do just that. But we can also see why, right? We can see why, because if we've experienced it for so long, and we've talked about this, it feels like our identity. It feels like this is who I am. It consumes us, and then that feeling of anxiety and dread and worry becomes our identity of I am an anxious person. And if it keeps on showing up, it's easy to become accustomed to it. But the reason why I bring up this example is because, yes, it's important to be open about it. But there is always a solution out there. And I'm not saying my work's going to be the solver, because there's many good things out there. There's many other therapists or practitioners or change or therapies for that matter that are able to solve the things. I tend to think my way is the best way simply because that's what I do. And if there was a better way, I would do it. And the results within myself and others have been really, really amazing in letting it go for good. Now here's someone else, Ryan Reynolds, who you would never think as being an anxious person. Like, if you ever seen his movies, his interviews, the way that he posts on Instagram, he seems like the most confident person that you could ever want to be like. But he attributes his anxiety to growing up with a father who was always on the edge. And he wasn't also, his father wasn't always easy on anyone as well. Now that brings back to me what I talk about a lot. The very first 7 years of our life, we are being imprinted upon. We are modeling people in the next 7 years based in sociology too. So we can easily be imprinted by those that we surround ourselves with, which we can happen as an adult as well, of course. But it's so easy to recognize that how we experience things growing up, from the significant emotional events we go through, that happen to us, the traumas, the things which were said to us, or the expectations placed upon us, maybe from our parents and our teachers, that we can start to be consumed with that anxiety and doubt. And in some ways it can push us forward. Sometimes it can be the fuel that we need to overcome and do something about it. But sometimes even the most successful people will still have that. And once again, I want you to realize you're not alone. And one of the reasons could be for you that growing up, we went for an event, or we were surrounded and we observed people who were anxious or on edge, or were placed very big expectations which make us feel like we can never live up to them. But once again, these are unconscious attributes that we want to be aware of. Now, the next person, this is Michael Phelps. If you don't know, he is a crazy super athlete, the most successful and most decorated Olympian of all time, with a total of 28 medals. All-time record Olympian of gold medals. And here's what he has to say. Throughout my career, I struggled with depression, anxiety at various times, and I found it so difficult to get help, or to get the help that I needed. And as I started opening up and talking about my issues, I felt strength and not vulnerability. Now, what I love about that is sometimes, like I said, we can feel very, very alone. It's a lonely, dark journey if it's not shared. But when you start to reach out to people, if you start to explore, and in the essence of this video, this episode, is to let you know you're not alone, because there are many people out there, and if we can observe what they're doing and slowly lowering that wall and letting people in is going to allow you to start to open up that bit more. And like I said, it is not me selling my program which lets it all go. It's just really saying there are so many people out there who have been through what you've been through, who are crazy successful to those who aren't that successful, but still experience the same issue. And I think we can bridge the gap if we start to take this a serious thing. You see, anxiety is not like a physical issue. Well, it is physical, of course, but it's not something that can be shown up in a scan or anything like that. It's in our mind. It's the thoughts we have, the feelings we have. Yes, it can create stress in the physical body, which can show up, but it's not something that we can isolate. It's not like we can put anxiety in a box or imposter syndrome in a box or anything like that. It's our own independent journey. And that's why it can be so hard to kind of reach out and speak up about this. And another aspect I like to think about is once you start to overcome, or let's bring it back, once you start to go all in on yourself of letting this go, and you reach out to someone who can solve it or can help you on that journey, it gives you then the opportunity to overcome it. But the second aspect of a journey, in my opinion, is to do something good because of it. Like you can shine a light and speak to other people because you're the example of someone who's overcome it. And let's bring it back into the real world. Let's say, for example, you have children in your life and you're an anxious person and they're observing that, which we know from Ryan Reynolds, we can assume that people think they're really good parents of trying to hide it. Like 93% of all communication is unconscious. Your physiology and your tonality is much louder than the words that you say. They are always modeling us. But if you were to wake up today and do something about it and truly overcome it, just think how that has an effect on your immediate family or your friends or your business or your career. Ultimately, you letting go of your anxiety by being open and doing something about it and finding someone, you can create ripples. And I say that from a personal experience. You see, I used to be, if you've been watching or listening to my work for the last 10, 15 years now, I used to have dread and anxiety growing up from school. And it was so hard for me to even think about talking about it, working about it, or working on it, because I thought I was broken. It wasn't until my dad saw all my exams being kind of hushed under the bed because I was just terrible. Only when he found them, he was like, wow, my son is going through something. And in that moment, I had to be vulnerable. I had to be open, but I wasn't a happy person. I could try to pretend. He knew obviously I was a shy person in general, but or a quiet child growing up and all those things. But it was only when he found that we started to make a change. And I then discovered how to solve my issue through hypnosis and processes. But as I said, it's important to me when those ripples to your children or your family, or you don't know who you're going to inspire, because it led me to where I am today. If it weren't for my anxiety, if it weren't for the experiences that I went through, I would not be doing what I'm doing today. And I'd never say this to impress upon anyone, but my work's been downloaded over like 17, 18 million times around the world in all continents, all the way even in Antarctica, which is crazy to me. And like I said, I don't say that to brag, but really to impress upon you that my own anxiety, I had to be open about it and share it. I then had to get the help. Then I solved it. And then once I solved it, this new journey appeared where I was like, I want everyone who experiences anxiety or the imposter syndrome, or, well, that wasn't a term when I started 22 years ago or so, but I wanted to go on a mission to help as many people as possible, from all my free work to my main program, which is all customized. Like, that's my mission in life, to hopefully help people. And we said on a previous episode that someone was in a crazy situation, and it wasn't only till he listened to the track, like in the middle of the night, did it start this journey for him. And then he has become an ambassador to help people get off drugs and alcohol. He's become a teacher and a leader. So just think of the ripple effects we can. I'm not taking credit for that, by the way. I want to be very clear on that. But there are ripple effects which will happen in your life, not only for yourself, but for so many people when you decide to take a stand for what is right. And then we have Prince Harry, all the way from my homeland. And he said, is he a prince anymore? I'm not sure, I don't think so. But he said, in my case, every single time I was in a room with loads of people, which is quite often, I was just pouring with sweat even. My heart beating, boom, 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 literally just felt like a washing machine. And he explained, it wasn't until he fought in Afghanistan that he realized he needed to seek help at the age of 28. Sometimes we've got to go through stuff to really wake up. Sometimes we've got to get to that point of that low. And sometimes the lowest of the low can instigate our biggest transformations if you decide. This is a common thing throughout all of society, and more so than ever before with all the social media pressures, all the filters online, all the people posting things, and we're trying to admire them, we're living in their world, and we forget about ourselves. And sometimes we feel too scared because everyone else seems to be having a good time with their social media posts. But in reality, deep down, many of those people are feeling the exact same way. Then we have Missy Elliot, the rapper, is the only female rapper who's had 6 certified platinum albums even. And she said, I get more shy as I got older and realized people could be laughing at me or judging me. And that is something we talk about all the time in my episodes, the fear of being found out, the fear of what people think of us. But the epiphany here is, I'm sure for everyone we've mentioned on this episode, we look up to them. Not all of them, maybe not all be your kind of jam or anything like that. But many people are amazing at what they do. Like on paper, writing down the Olympian, the music artist, even Prince Harry with all his charity work and all those things on paper, perfect. No one would be having those, in reality, be laughing at them or thinking negative things. But on the inside, we believe it. We think that it's true. And no matter what people say, because I'm sure to Missy Elliot, the amount of great feedback she receives, all the people who want to work with her, who adore her, love on her, but no matter what people say, on the inside, if you don't feel it within, you will disregard. Not only disregard, but you'll actually think they're actually doing something negative in the fact that maybe they're laughing at you. Maybe they're thinking you're going to foul, or you're thinking what they think of you. It's such a common thing, but it's all on the inside. It's all in our mind. And that's good news, because you are ultimately in control of your mind. You may not feel like it, You may not feel like it at all right now because the unconscious mind runs the beliefs, but you can get back get the reins on that. You can get back in control once you start to get your unconscious mind to resolve the issues. And I say hypnosis, hands down, is the way, or working with someone who's very skilled at working with the unconscious mind. And like I said, this is to shine a light on this. This is for, even to those who have this, to shine a light, hopefully, that there are other ways of making those transformations. And then we have Adele, the crazy cool singer, 16 Grammys. And here's what she says. I have anxiety attacks, constant panicking on stage. My heart feels like it's going to explode because I never feel like I'm going to deliver ever. Goes right back to the imposter syndrome. I don't feel like I'm going to deliver. That means we don't think we're good enough. We don't think maybe we're worthy or deserving. We can focus on the anxiety and the panic attacks, but they're only there because of that belief about ourselves. That limiting belief creates the anxiety, creates it. So the message and the learning in this one is, yeah, pay attention to the anxiety in terms of it showing something up, but don't try to manage anxiety. Aim to solve the cause of the anxiety, which is most likely going to be the identity of us. And then finally, we have Hugh Grant, who I think is an amazing actor. 4 decades he's been doing what he's doing, received Golden Globe, British Academy Film Awards, and all those kind of things. His work, his films have grossed more than $2.4 billion around the world. But did you know that his psychological issues of anxiety actually made him quit acting for nearly 5 years? And what's the lesson in this one? Well, in my opinion is, our anxiety can hold us back and make us quit on certain things. And maybe it is the career. Maybe you don't go for the job that you want and you may play it small into another job because it's easier. You don't want to have that pressure on you. So you play small and you settle for less. And it could be the same thing for relationships where you kind of go, well, I'm gonna, 2 things. I'm not gonna go for that person because I'm not worthy or good enough. Or maybe you get into relationships and you end it before they could ever blossom because you self-sabotage, because you think they're gonna leave you. Or maybe the third secret one there is we attract people who are gonna take advantage of our lack of self-esteem and lack of worth. But ultimately, we are missing out on so many opportunities all around us because of the issues that we have. They just stop us. That could be millions of worths of dollars for you personally. It could be hundreds of thousands. It could be just an extra 1,000 to a month, which I'm sure you would like. Or if it's not about money, it's about the career, doing something meaningful and purposeful. Maybe it is to have that great relationship with someone. It could be any and all of these things. Like I said, to show up as a mother or a father or a family member in such a way that you inspire. But all in all, everyone experiences anxiety. From those way up there who would think, and I say way up there, they're not way up here, but if we kind of put them on a pedestal in the media as celebrities and so on. But we all go through it. I know I went through it. I had to face my own demons and inner beliefs, my inner critic. But I promise you, once you do, it is a night and day experience. You will see the world differently because you are a different person. You will perceive yourself differently and therefore project a new reality. And I say that in a weird way, but it ultimately does. You see the world in a different lens. You go for the opportunities. You say that I'm worthy and deserving and enough to achieve what I desire. It causes us to live differently, more authentically. And like I said, something really, really important to me is that you create ripples out in the world. You making a change. Yes, it should be for you. primarily. But what I find to notice, those who rise up to the challenge and take a stand, make the change, somehow, some way, something magical starts to happen. A new journey, a new mission, where you start to shine your light that you never thought was there. It may have been a little spark, but you see and express your energy in a way that lights up not only the illusionary darkness within, but also around you, for those around you. I've said this analogy before, but it's very important to me. It's like you're a candle and we've lost our spark. But then you kind of go, I'm going to start to live, and you create that spark. It lights up your flame. You lights up the world or the room around you, and you see all these other candles here, and you're like, I'm shining bright now. I know what it's like to be in the dark, and now I see the light. I'm going to go to every one of those candles and ignite that spark. It just shines up, and it takes nothing away from your flame. Never does. You shining a light, lighting, igniting other people's candles, their soul, their heart, takes nothing away from your flame. But what does happen is we've put so much more light into the world. We start to see and give ourselves permission to do more, and other people permission to do more, and to live the life that they truly desire, which they never knew thought were possible. And maybe you've been that way or are that way, that yes, you've got something to do, be, and have, but sometimes you've got to wake up to the call, and you've got to do that. You've got to assume responsibility. And another thing I haven't mentioned for a while at least, but I've worked with directors and sports athletes, high-end entrepreneurs, and they all experience this. In fact, one film director who you will know of, you would have watched their movies, I have zero doubt about that, felt the exact same way. It doesn't matter who you are, what profession you're in. In fact, with the entrepreneurs that I work with, they get more pressure on them because they're failing or fearing that they might lose it all. It adds this double thing. They've made it not feeling good enough somehow, some way, and now they got something to lose, and that just deepens it. So remember, you're not alone. Get the help that is out there. Whether it be through me, my free work, my main program, or any other practitioner of change who you resonate with, who you go, this person knows exactly what they're talking about and they've mirrored my experience, or they've overcome what I'm going through. Could be in a different situation, a different problem, but there's always people out there who can support you and get you and help you through that. There's always a way, and you don't have to be in the dark about things. And of course, as always, if you feel like I'm that person and you want to work with my program, and there is an investment in time and money, it is the number one thing in my opinion. That's why I created it, because I just solved it myself and I want to be able to replicate that for everyone. All you got to do is go to josephclough.info/talk and we'll get clear. You kind of fill out an application form. You show up to your one-to-one call with us. We get clear of what you're going through, where you want to be. We figure out if we can solve it. If we can, we'll say, yes, we can, and we'll get you on the program. Like I said, you got to be really invested in money and in time. It's not a free program. You get to work with us, as in my team, and we make that change. So that's josephclough.info/talk. But with that, my friends, I really hope that you got value from this. And you can also download my free app at freehypnosis.app if you want. If you're not able to invest in yourself as much or anything like that, like I said, I want my work to be out there to help as many people, whether it be for free, where we just get a small monthly subscription or a yearly subscription, which is like half the price, but you have everything at your fingertips. Sleep at night, wake up transformed. Morning meditations, custom tracks, download, create playlists, all those kind of things. 4-hour sleep sessions as well. So go ahead and get that at the very least. It will support you on the journey. I want to support you on your journey, even at a distance. And if you're enjoying my work, please go ahead and leave a review on the app stores. And finally, just remember, you have everything you need to make the change that you desire. You do. It's all in there. You wouldn't be listening this far if it wasn't. So let's go ahead, rise up, and never know what ripples that you can create that are unseen right now, but when you get there, you'll go, that was the day I decided to show up differently. And that was the day that created all these other events, which set me down a different path, that allowed me to live and love life in a way that is magical. That's what I want for you. Many thanks and goodbye.